morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Reverend Kathy Scharmer, and I am very, very blessed to be doing the Sunday Talk today. It's just a treat. Especially Reverend Harriet had mentioned last week and included it in her announcements that the outlines that we receive from home office, different ministers write those all year long. And it's about maybe 40 or 50 ministers get together and write up, each one takes a week and we each do one of the outlines. And I was very, very honored to be asked last year to put in one of the outlines. So the talk that I'm giving you today is from my very own outline. So that's fun. And Harriet, God bless this woman, right? The outline I wrote was for next week, and unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town next week. So being as flexible as she is, she goes, well, just do the fourth week on the third week, and the third week will be on the fourth week, and we'll make it all work out. So for those of you who are following along in the spiritual journals, you'll find that the topic for today is actually called Sparking Imagination. And what I'm going to be talking about is our guidance positioning system. The month of August is all about guidance. So just flip to the next week and you'll be caught up. The topic of guidance positioning system, I actually translate it in my mind to the God positioning system, my own personal GPS. And when you think about a GPS in that deeper sense, it's really fascinating to look at some of the correlations that go on. We all have moments in our lives where we need to recalculate route. Now, behind the wheel of a car, I get that message so often. It's just, they might as well said, hey, Kathy, you did it again. I am navigationally challenged. There is no doubt about it. So this recalculating route really, really hit home for me. And when I look at it from the deeper sense, I realize that there's times in my life that I have had to recalculate my life route. I've had to look at what I'm doing, the choices that I've made, and then take that hard look to say, am I living the life that I want to lead based on these choices? And if I can't say yes, I need to seriously consider recalculating my route. One of my own personal stories is my love story. Everybody loves a love story. And it led up to an awesome marriage for the last 19 years to my husband, John. But before that, I kissed a few frogs that never turned into princes. I was in my 40s before I met John, so there was, 20 years of just stuff that didn't work. I don't quite know why, but I really like those bad boys. There's just some excitement to them. But that excitement doesn't last, right? Within a few short months, it's like, where's the depth here? Where's the meaning? Where's the intimacy? And I'd have to recalculate my route. Again, 20 years of this, right? So I had lots of experience recalculating my route. And when I left that bad boy side, I'd come over to the other side, the soft, the gentler men, the ones that were compassionate and understanding, sympathetic. And unfortunately, after a few months on this side, I'd realized that the ones I was choosing, they had no drive, they had no ambition, they wanted to just placidly follow anywhere that I went without taking any responsibility for any of the relationship challenges themselves. Now again, coming off of the bad boy, it was kind of nice to have somebody wanted to be all about me. But again, after a little bit of time, where's the partnership? Where's somebody else coming in and said, hey, Kath, I got this? Where's the person that I can count on? instead of only being the person that they can count on. So at that moment, I took Reverend Harriet's advice, not knowing it was going to be her advice, and I took a pause for the cause. I just stopped dating. Because while I can look at all of these guys on either side of this spectrum and say, loser, well, what was all of them having in common? It was me, right? It was me. I'm choosing these people in a pattern in my life that I didn't like. So I recalculated my life. And I consciously chose to just not date at all. Not to see anybody, not to get a hug or a kiss in a romantic sense, because I was putting so much energy into the world to be something that I wasn't to make a relationship work. I said, and it's still not working. Let's turn that energy inside. I joined meditation circles. I went to therapy. I read every single self-help book out there. I invested in just a wealth of spiritual books, helping me to find that guidance that I so sorely wanted. I wanted a deep and meaningful relationship that would bring me closer to my own divinity. A partner that could understand this seeker part of me and knew that there was more to life and shared that with me so we could jointly be on the path to experience a deeper and richer life. I wanted someone that would look inside themselves first and take that beauty of the divine within out to the world. Lucky for me, I found it, right? But it took me recalculating my route. It took me stopping everything that I had done. Because when we're seeking outside of ourselves, we will never find what truly brings us that divine presence inside. And the whole guidance positioning system, the God positioning system, when I'm recalculating my route again and again and again, sometimes just like a GPS in our cars, signal lost. Well, you and I both know the signal never got lost. I never even got lost. Maybe I was a little misdirected, but the signal, the presence, that divine guidance is always there. No matter how big and long and dark that tunnel is that looked like there's no possible way a signal could ever penetrate, if I just keep going, I'm going to regain signal. I'm going to get my sense of direction back. But to regain my signal, it doesn't just happen if I freeze in place and stay stuck to whatever was keeping me stuck. I have to keep going. It's these tunnels of life that all of us have at our own moments in time. For me, it was all about looking for love in all the wrong places and to make a choice to change. When we look at the reading that Cher gave us today, it was about the divine presence flowing through each of us. And when we accept this presence, we become conduits to spirit. This brought forward in my mind part of our CSL global themes. So we have a vision statement for the 400 plus centers that participate in Centers for Spiritual Living. It says, we envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought. A world where each and every person discovers his or her own personal power an ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone. Who doesn't want that, right? And to get it, we need to take conscious steps to feel the presence that is always within us. But sometimes that day-to-day life just drowns out the still small voice inside. So I came up with an acronym that would help to remind me of the presence, and I call it STOP. Because I'll say that to myself when I find myself spiraling in a direction I don't want to go. Stop. Just stop, Kathy. And it's also, you can hear parents, say that to children. Well, I decided to make that stop something a little more positive than just halting action. So S-T-O-P. S is the silence. And I go within. I take that moment to just be still, to listen to the still small voice inside that's always there, always whispering the truth of love, the truth of me. Ernest Holmes wrote about silence, as I found in Questions and Answers on Science of Mind. The silence means this: a contemplation in the quiet of the mind, when the objective tumult is temporarily stilled and we rise in our consciousness to the place of pure causation, which is spirit. First thing is to be silent. The T in stop is for time. I find that I can't go within to that beautiful silent place of peace if I'm rushing around. Or even if I'm just busy with life, laundry, grocery, shopping, work, family, friends. Even with COVID upon us, I find myself busier than I want to be sometimes. So I consciously say, no, not today, thank you. I'm taking time to be with me. Time. It's necessary to truly experience the silence. But that's not all it takes. It also takes opportunity. Many people will move the silence and the times while they're driving. That's not the opportunity that I want to be on the road with, right? I want an opportunity that is 100% dedicated to going deep. And if there's anything else occurring at that moment, I am not going to go as deep as I could. Now, I've done driving meditations, but it's only half of my consciousness, because I still need to make sure that traffic, does not go by without me being aware of what's going on. So O is that opportunity. And for me, the opportunity is meditation. When I consciously give myself time to sit quietly, take the time, listen to the silence, and find myself opening up to something greater than myself. Deepak Chopra calls meditation the space in between thoughts. Isn't that beautiful? And I treasure the opportunity to experience that space. But when I do, I feel the presence. I feel the presence. If any of you have not yet experienced the morning meditation we do here at Lighthouse, give it a try. It's 6:30 in the morning, and I know that's early for many people, but it's just this beautiful way to feel that presence for yourselves. And the P, of course, in STOP is presence. The one mind, the one source. It's created everything I see and everything I don't see. It's the presence in the world that brings me joy and love, beauty and peace. the connection to that which is greater than me. When I stop, I feel the connection to the power for good. I move from just thinking of the divine to actually feeling it and experiencing it. For we only receive that which we consciously permit ourselves to receive. It's called the Law of Correspondence in Science of Mind. Ernest Holmes says, the law of correspondence works from the belief to the thing. If we believe we shall have only a little good will come into our experience. And that was my earlier experience with romantic relationships. At the end of that 4-year period, I had gotten an awareness that I had a belief structure that said I didn't deserve a good relationship. It wasn't modeled for me as a child. I didn't know what it looked like. And it was through my time of introspection that I realized that I did deserve a good, strong, loving relationship. And when my belief in me changed, my reality changed. The things that were coming into my life were different. Now, I started my whole CSL world in the San Jose community with Reverend Dr. David Bruner, and he used a quote from the Science of Mind textbook so often that people could start referring to it just by page 52. So he would say, 52, and like, yeah. Let me read it for you. It is just such a wonderful, wonderful demonstration of how our belief works in our lives. Hence, it follows that if we believe that it will not work, it really works by appearing to not work. When we believe that it cannot and will not, then according to principle, it does not. But when it does not, it still does, only it does according to a belief that it will not. Isn't that classic? Isn't that absolutely classic? Hence, it follows. And it made me just stop and take a step back and say, what do I believe? Because often we don't even know we're believing something. It's just the way life has always been. I guess I'm not destined to have a good, strong relationship. Oh, well. But that wasn't true. That wasn't true. When I recalculated my route, I opened myself to an entirely different experience. And by opening myself, I expanded my spiritual quotient. Now, we've heard of IQ, intelligence quotient, EQ, emotional intelligence. This is the spiritual quotient. And this is a real thing. You can go out on Google and look up what is the SQ. And it's something that is getting more and more publicity because people are aware that we all have this component of spirituality to us. It's just, what are we doing with it? Is it floating along the top, or is it coming down deep? And for those who are seekers of that depth, we're asking the big questions. And that's part of how spiritual quotient is defined. People with a high SQ ask things like, what is the meaning of life? And the answer is not 42 for those of you who followed I can't remember the book now. The Restaurant at the End of the Galaxy. Meaning of life was 42. What is the meaning of life? A high SQ wants to know that. What happens after death? Why was I born? What's my purpose in this world? Now, we may not be able to have answers for each of those questions, but we can certainly seek them out. To be a truth seeker as we expand our consciousness and we expand our spiritual quotient by looking deeper into the things of life. When people do have a high SQ, they have been able to measure some of the benefits, including more energy, a balanced life, better control of your emotions, greater capacity to manage life's ups and downs, greater reluctance to cause unnecessary harm. And a high SQ controls anger, disappointment, irritation, fear, sorrow, all the things that we call the shadow side or negative emotions. The SQ factor lets us look at these as things we can learn from. So how do you know what your SQ is? Now, there's lots of places on the internet that you can go to take questionnaires that, just like an IQ or an EQ, give you a value number that identifies your SQ. But some of the indicators, self-aware, people who have high SQ, they have taken the time to look within. They often have a vision of where they want to go, and their lives are led by values, not events. They make a positive use of adversity. They have holistic compassion. They celebrate diversity. They ask fundamental why questions. They reframe things. They live with a sense of spontaneity as well as humility. SQ looks at the spiritual power of a person. And a high spirituality increases a person's ability to be creative, to be aware, to be insightful. And all three are necessary, IQ, EQ, SQ. But SQ is where we are coming from in this beautiful Livermore Lighthouse community to become the fully realized individual expressions of spirit. It's when we pause, when we STOP, stop, that we develop our deeper SQ abilities, when we start to experience our own spiritual magnificence. As Ernest Holmes says in his Sermon by the Sea Talk, we have discovered that which the great, the good, and the wise have sung about and thought about. The imprisoned splendor within ourselves and within each other, and we have direct contact with it. Let us pray. I take this moment now to feel the silence, to know the time and the opportunity exists right here and right now, to feel the presence, the ever-loving divine guidance that is at work right now, healing the very world that we live in, putting out the fires that are going on in California, helping the people from the earthquake in Haiti, providing the love and nourishment that is necessary for all of us as we go about our spiritual journeys, seeking the deeper meaning of life, knowing that we are part of something greater than ourselves. This is our journey as spiritual seekers. This is the journey of humanity, to know our spiritual magnificence. And as I stop, and feel that magnificence vibrating through my very being. I am grateful. Grateful to be here now with CSL Lighthouse in my own beautiful meditation room, looking out in Zoom land at all of these wonderful beings in front of me. My heart just is filled full with gratitude. And as I feel this, I let go. I let God. I let Spirit run my life. And I invite each and every one of you to help me affirm these words as we say together, and so it is.